Friends, I want to tell you about the heated debate that recently broke out on one of the German TV channels. Professor Wolfgang Bosbach got into a fierce dispute with a representative of migrant rights, who voiced accusations of bias against migrants and the difficulties of their adaptation to European life. However, the professor did not stand aside and responded emotionally to such accusations. He stressed that Christians in modern Germany are increasingly finding themselves in a disadvantaged position compared to Muslims. In his opinion, the growing number of mosques in the country clearly demonstrates that it is at least illogical to talk about restricting the rights of Muslims. The professor urged the opponent and the society to rely on facts rather than subjective feelings. In general, the release promises to be very hot. Friends, let's not delay, we're starting. We will return to the vivid speech later. First, I would like to discuss the real situation in Germany right now. The situation with migrants in Germany today is indeed causing a wide public outcry. When Angela Merkel uttered her famous "We will manage" in 2015, few people imagined how painful and chaotic this process would turn out to be. Germany, once a symbol of stability, order, and tranquility, is now facing serious consequences of the migration policy of recent years. Today, there are between 5 and 7 million migrants living in the country, and these are only official figures. Experts are confident that this figure will only increase, largely due to the family reunification policy, thanks to which one migrant who has received the right to reside in Germany can bring not only a spouse, but also distant relatives, including second cousins and grandparents. It is predicted that in the next few years, the number of migrants in Germany may reach 10 million people. It is especially difficult for small towns and villages, where about 100 new migrants are sent every week. The local infrastructure, including schools and medical facilities, is already operating at the limit of its capabilities. The residents of these settlements, accustomed to a quiet and measured life, increasingly feel forgotten by their own government, which seems to care more about the newcomers than about its citizens. The situation is also aggravated by the rising crime rate. Up to several dozen knife attacks are recorded in Germany every day, and in many cases this is due to migrants. These crimes have become a kind of symbol of the authorities' inability to cope with the situation. In addition, a significant number of cases of violence against women are recorded on a daily basis, which causes justifiable indignation among the population. Instead of reviewing migration policy, the government prefers to ignore these facts, claiming that the situation is under control. The financial burden on the state budget has also reached a critical point. Migrant families receive social benefits that average €3,500 per month, an amount that many Germans can only dream of. For comparison, the average pension in the country is only about €1,000. German pensioners, who have worked honestly and paid taxes all their lives, are forced to count every penny, save on food and heating, and sometimes even go out to work part-time to make ends meet. Against this background, comparisons with migrants, who often do not work at all and live on government subsidies, cause a sense of deep injustice. Many Germans are wondering, why are the citizens of their country forced to endure hardships, while visitors receive everything on a silver platter? This question, which is getting louder, requires an honest answer from the authorities. Social tension in Germany continues to grow, and this is especially noticeable in the educational system. What used to be the pride of German culture, the schools where the works of Goethe, Schiller, and the philosophy of Kant were taught, is increasingly becoming a battlefield of cultures. There are more and more students from Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria in the classrooms, and some of them openly declare that German norms and rules are not important to them. Instead, they try to impose their cultural habits on their classmates, which causes serious concerns among parents of German children. Recent surveys show alarming statistics. About 40% of school children in Germany, under pressure, begin to think about adopting Islamic norms or even changing their religion. These are not just numbers, they are a signal that the cultural transformation in the country is getting out of control. The situation is aggravated by the fact that many migrants who came to Germany in 2000, fleeing the conflict, do not intend to return home today, although the situation in Syria has changed. The government in the country has stabilized, but migrants prefer to stay in Germany, where life is much more convenient. Moreover, some of them are actively putting forward their demands, organizing demonstrations in German cities. The tragedy at the Christmas market in Magdeburg was another shock to society. The event, which was supposed to be a symbol of joy, turned into a nightmare. This incident has again raised questions about the authorities' inability to ensure the safety of their citizens. German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier openly admitted that the government is not coping with the tasks it faces. He called for great efforts to regain the trust of the population. Angela Merkel's famous slogan, "We will cope," turned out to be empty words. In fact, Germany is not coping, and Merkel herself, now retired, prefers to write memoirs instead of admitting her mistakes. She shifts responsibility for what is happening to external factors, including accusations against Russia. The situation is only getting worse under the current Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Crime is on the rise, migration policy remains unchanged, and citizens' protests and discontent remain unanswered. Experts warn that if urgent measures are not taken, Germany risks losing its cultural identity and facing a profound social catastrophe. Friends, as promised, a bright and honest speech about migrants from the Professor Moore. Professor Bosbach highlighted this disturbing reality vividly, commenting on the situation with migrants. He noted that accusations of discrimination against Muslims in Germany are often an attempt to create conflict where there is none in reality. When I hear allegations of discrimination against Muslims in Germany, it seems to me that this is an attempt to artificially inflate the problem, said the professor, whose words make me think. Next is the quote, "Germany has always prided itself on its tolerance, respect for diversity and religious freedom. These are the fundamental principles that form the foundation of our society. But today, when statements about discrimination against Muslims are made, a legitimate question arises. How well-founded are such statements? Personally, traveling around the country, I see how the Islamic community is actively developing. There are more than 8 mosques in Berlin alone, and one of the largest mosques in Europe is under construction in Cologne. These are not just religious buildings, but entire cultural centers with educational programs, libraries, shops, and cafes. The state and local authorities support this integration, creating comfortable conditions for its successful completion. Muslims are free to practice their faith, build mosques, and create cultural and community organizations. Schools offer halal meals and respect religious holidays. Despite this, claims of discrimination sometimes get louder. But let's be honest. Integration is not only a right, but also an obligation. Visitors to Germany must respect the laws, traditions, and culture of the country. However, in some areas, such as Neukölln in Berlin or Marx in Duisburg, people have been living for decades without knowing German, not working, but receiving social benefits. This creates tension between the indigenous population and migrants. The issue of security deserves special attention. Statistics show that riots and acts of vandalism, such as the recent events in Magdeburg, are often initiated by migrant youth. At the same time, we rarely hear about the problems of Christians who are being persecuted in Muslim countries. In Saudi Arabia, for example, the construction of churches is prohibited, and Christians are the most persecuted religious group in the world. Why don't these facts become a reason for equally loud discussions? The majority of Muslims in Germany are peaceful and law-abiding citizens, but the state is obliged to take action if certain groups refuse to integrate and violate public order. This is the only way to maintain a balance between tolerance, security, and respect for our common values. This is not discrimination, but the protection of law-abiding citizens, regardless of their origin and religion. Germany remains an open country where everyone can freely practice their religion and develop their culture. However, this should not happen at the expense of the loss of national identity or the aggravation of social conflicts. We need to build a dialogue based on mutual respect, not mutual accusations. Germany's traditions and values are the foundation that we must preserve. Only on this basis can a healthy and sustainable society be built. End quote. Friends, what happened to Germany, which was once a symbol of European power and the standard of engineering genius? The country that could create a technological miracle out of anything, be it a car, an industrial machine, or a diplomatic structure that kept the world afloat. Today, its brilliance has given way to a dim glow of dependence on external players and an inability to protect their own interests. Take, for example, the presence of tens of thousands of American soldiers in Germany. It seems that in the 21st century, a European country with a claim to leadership should demonstrate independence in politics and economics. But instead, Germany remains an obedient student, nodding its head at every instruction from Washington. Can a country that has turned into a U.S. military base be independent? New American missiles are planned to be deployed in Germany in 2017. This is a strategic advantage for the Allies, but in response, Germany will be the first target, not those who made these decisions overseas. However, Berlin prefers to remain silent, ignoring the lessons of history. And how can you not remember the epic of the Nord Streams? The ruptured gas pipelines have become not only an engineering disaster, but also a symbol of the country's broken economic model. Germany, which has relied on cheap Russian gas for decades, is now forced to buy expensive liquefied natural gas from its overseas partners. Against this background, major German companies such as BASF and Volkswagen are massively reducing production or moving their facilities abroad. Where is Berlin's voice? Why is there absolute silence in the German corridors of power? It's hard not to wonder if Germany retains the spirit of rationality and independence that it has always been proud of. In recent years, Germany has faced serious challenges that affect both the economy and the social structure. Thousands of businesses are going bankrupt, and the economy, once considered the locomotive of Europe, is creaking on the verge of stagnation. But even against the background of such dramatic events, we hear only silence from the authorities and industrialists. Where are the investigations? Where are the demands for change? The answer seems to be inconvenient. Key decisions are made outside the country. The problem is compounded by the migration policy, which is destroying the social fabric of Germany. Billions of euros are being spent on the maintenance of migrants, while the crime rate is rising and the usual way of life in cities is changing. In some areas of large cities, German is spoken less frequently than Arabic or Turkish. At the same time, the authorities continue to assure that everything is going according to plan, although no one knows what this plan is or where it leads. Social tensions are rising, but the German leadership is demonstrating caution bordering on inaction. Chancellor Olaf Scholz, despite the respect for his position, looks more like an executor of someone else's instructions than a strategist. His decisions are often consistent with the interests of Washington and Brussels, which raises questions about Germany's national independence. In the past, the country could be proud of leaders like Konrad Adenauer, Willy Brandt, and even Angela Merkel, who made difficult but important decisions. Today, experts say Germany is losing its sovereignty, increasingly focusing on the decisions of external players. The question of whether Germany will be able to regain its status as a strong and independent state remains open. This will require the emergence of a leader who is ready to defend national interests rather than follow the decisions of others. Independence is not just a word, but the basis of sovereignty, which should become the main goal of German politics if the country wants to avoid further deepening economic and political decline. I want to summarize the material, friends, and express my opinion. It seems to me that the material raises extremely important and at the same time very sensitive issues that require in-depth analysis and discussion. My goal is not to hurt anyone's feelings, but to try to look at the situation objectively, based on the facts presented and my own observations. Germany, as a country with a rich history of tolerance and respect for diversity, is currently facing challenges that require a wise approach. The balance between supporting migrants, preserving national identity, and protecting citizens' rights is a task that only responsible and determined leaders can handle. Special respect is due to the professor who, despite the sensitivity of the topic, found the courage to openly talk about it on the air. His speech impresses with its sincerity and the ability to discuss issues in a reasoned manner that many prefer to avoid. Such public statements do not contribute to the division of society, but to its consolidation through awareness of real problems and the search for solutions. After all, only an honest and open dialogue can become the basis for constructive change. Thank you for your attention, dear viewers, and I wish you good health and a lot of patience in the new year. See you.